Hello everyone, I hope you're taking it easy and your day has been great thus far. For this week's Transformer content, we'll be going through an unboxing and review of Deluxe Class Airazor. And this version of Airazor is from the Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy, specifically the Kingdom component of the trilogy, and the toy was released back in 2021 by our usual friends of Hasbro and Takara Tomy. So moving through the Maximal team, hitting the third member of the team out of 7 with Airazor. Since I decided just to make it easy, just go through the size classes. So at this point of this video, Rat Trap has been done, Cheetor has been done, so Airazor will be the third, also the second member of the team who is in the Deluxe class range. The remaining 4 will move into the Voyager, which isn't a problem. Hoping to keep this one relatively quick because Pterosaur from the Predacon side has already been looked at, and he was also a very heavy retool of Airazor, so I guess we'll also find out if he really was. Anyway, here we have the front of the box for Airazor. Back in the day when we still had the nice little plastic window there, so we can see Airazor inside the packaging, sporting some very on-screen accurate colours, which is very cool. Otherwise, in terms of the rest of the box, we have a shot of Airazor in her beast mode, and then Airazor in her robot mode surrounding the side of the box. Everything else is pretty much the same, won't spend too much time on that. As for the back of the box, Airazor in her robot mode, Airazor in her beast mode, 22 steps of conversion. The good news is, I'm fairly certain I know what those steps are now, so it shouldn't take too long doing the intermission between robot and beast mode. Now, it's interesting enough, looking at these colours here, they're more of this gold/yellow look, whereas when we go look at her actual robot mode, that is orange through and through. Not that it's bad, the colours work quite well. Her head sculpt, I think, is working really well, but we will definitely have a better look once I open the box, which I'll do right now. Then we're going to have a quick look at the inclusions. And with everything out of the box, so going through everything, instruction manual, standard, Airazor, 2 accessories, which means I throw one of them around the place just because I can. And we do get another collectible card, which is surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, the Arc. Again. Yeah. Won't spend too much time on this. I think this is what, third Arc I now have? It's still cool that we get them, but 2 accessories we will come back to. Airazor we will come back to as well, and I'm actually quite digging Airazor already. Okay, so instruction manual. We do get the quick step about how to attach her 2 accessory weapons to her forearms, which is fine. Otherwise, the transformation is going to be very similar to what we experienced when doing Pterosaur some weeks ago. But I will say, Airazor definitely does a much better job of vacuum. So don't need to look at the steps too much because they're pretty much the same as what I am used to. So that's actually pretty cool. And we do have one little instruction as to how to add those accessories back into her alt mode as well. So that was the manual, pretty quick and easy because I do in this case have a level of familiarity with it. So that's that. Now as for Airazor and accessories, so we do have two of these little forearm missiles, which is pretty much on par with what you had in the original series. So what I will do is add them to your forearms. Now on Pterosaur, I believe they were just little small quote-unquote spiky protrusions that came out. And there we go. Airazor with your accessories attached. Very cool. And I think I can actually leave them attached. So those are the accessories. In fact, just out of curiosity, watch me struggle to taking one of these off now. Can you actually hold one in your hand? Okay. So it could be handheld. Doesn't look too bad as a handheld weapon, to be honest. But yes, it's either handheld or in her forearm. So that would probably suggest that's a very similar port connections. Okay, Airazor. So here we have Airazor from the front of the figure, side of the figure, the back, the other side, bit of an angle, top down. Now top down does suggest that the wings don't, actually, I wonder if I have, okay, the wings won't be super tidy, but there you go. It's still not too bad. At least they try to tuck away. From the bottom up, can Airazor stand on her own 2 feet? Yes, she can. And I have noticed these ankle sockets do seem stronger on Airazor than what I encountered with Pterosaur. So a little bit of comfort that it's probably not a quote-unquote defect of the mold. So it could just be Pterosaur who is blessed with awkward ankles. Before we get too much further, there's a close-up of Airazor, specifically the detailing on her face sculpt. She does have her Maximal logo there on the front of her arm. That's very cool. So I've had a bit of a ad hoc 360 of Airazor. Had a quick look at the detailing on her face sculpt and some of the extra paint detailing colors wise. So she is this gold, orange, I'm not sure what to call the other primary color, grey type color, I dare say, maybe. Some extra colors, well, not really extra colors, it's still the orange, but she does have some paint apps there in some very light grey, the gold we've talked about, and then her face has some extra colors with the green for the eyes and the metallic purple of sorts for her face, which does look really, really cool. I know I said Cheetor had a pretty okay face sculpt, but I think Airazor so far is probably the best one possibly to date. The Rat Trap also had a really good face sculpt. So that is some of the detailing and colours, which is really cool. It does actually work quite well, and I will definitely say a huge step up from her original 90s figure. In terms of articulation, let's see if we can keep this quick. Head will do a nice 360, can also do a little bit of up and down as well. That's very cool. As for the arm, if I do a little bit of sorcery, can do a full 360 up at the shoulder joint. If the arm was fully extended, if the arm was like that, then naturally it would have some limitations. This little shoulder piece will just go up and down, but that's neither here or there. We do have some rotation here within the upper arm. Solid elbow bend. I believe this, no, it will not go backwards. I thought it did. That's definitely a very solid elbow there. And Airazor, being Airazor, also has this extra amount of wrist articulation as well. But I will admit, it does seem a little unusual. I do know that is to facilitate some of the transformation, but even as a form of articulation, I think on certain angles it's okay, but if you look at it side on, it does look very unusual as a movement within the wrist. So that was her arms. And yes, I am struggling just a little bit with her back. So the arms will be fine. Now I do believe she has some waist rotation. In fact, Airazor can do a full 360, not a problem. Legs can do a full splits. In fact, the legs can actually do more than just the full splits. The legs can start going all the way upwards. There you go. Can do a nice 360 there at the hip. We do have some rotation here in the upper leg, which is good. Now, is this a single knee bend? Yes, single knee bend. All the way out. Good degree of being able to go back in. I do believe this is also to help with some of the posing of the legs for the beast mode. That's still pretty cool. We do have this little hinge just a little bit further up past the ankle, so there is some extra movement there, but similar to the rest. Looks a little janky, so I definitely wouldn't recommend doing it too much. Just reset some of these, and then lastly we do have that wall socket there for the actual ankles. And yes, unlike good old Pterosaur, I actually do feel much more comfortable with those ankles, whereas with Pterosaur both of the sockets felt quite loose, so it didn't take too much just to off-center Pterosaur and he would topple over. But in terms of articulation, it's definitely on par with what we saw with Pterosaur. In fact, I think some things feel a little bit better on account of the wings being a little bit more nicer to tuck away. They're not fantastic. Would have been nice if it neatly tucked away. As you can see, I'm still trying to make them neatly tuck away to no avail, but they do still fold over quite nicely. And looking at the back, still not too bad in terms of back kibble. Still generally quite neat. Doing my usual B127 comparison, we have definitely seen much worse when it comes to back kibble. So that's a look at Airazor in her robot mode. Articulation is really good. I think I'll have a bit more fun with her this time around, although, you know, even with Pterosaur, articulation was still quite good, minus the ankle joints being a bit unsavory. So it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. I'm just trying to remember if I actually knew about the 360 at the waist. I'm pretty sure I did, but there you go. Okay, so now that we've had a look at Airazor in her robot mode, I will transform her, and we can have a look at her beast mode, and then I will do my usual final thoughts. And with Airazor now in her beast mode. Now, even though I was familiar with the transformation, I did have to recheck a few things because even though Pterosaur was a retool, there were just a few things I wanted to double check on because they were ever so slightly different. But anyway, here we have Airazor in her beast mode. So I guess before I get too carried away, lift the wing up. I have attached her weapon accessories to the top of her legs, and surprisingly, they actually don't look too bad. They blend in nicely, so I actually might be inclined just to leave them there for the few times that I have Airazor in her beast mode. So let's fully extend out the wings. So Airazor, looking at the top down, from the bottom up, directly front on, from the back, from the side. I guess if I just fold the wing back, a bit more from the side, put the wing down, a bit more from the side, which I'll do for both. Airazor does stand quite nicely in her beast mode. Now, similar to Pterosaur, it will obviously depend on the center of balance, so if you lean her too far forward, she will unfortunately plop down. But if you balance it just right, she can stand quite nicely on her two clawed legs. And yeah, unlike Pterosaur, I haven't had any issues with those ankle ball sockets. They are quite secure. Now in terms of colors, so we have Airazor's beast mode in that grey/brown. So from looking at the top down, probably put her in the camera, looking down from the top, colors look very nice for her beast mode. From the other side, still not too bad. We still have a lot of coverage of her beast mode colors. The orange talons isn't a problem. You do see some of the colors from her main torso coming through, and some of that yellow and gold and the light grey from her legs, but overall still looking very nice. A bit of a close-up on the detail on the falcon head before we look at some articulation within the beast mode, which is definitely a little bit more than what Pterosaur had. So I guess I'll start with a wing. So the wing, so it's got that 1, 2, 3 hinges. So the wing can go all the way up, all the way down, and that's just at hinge 1. Hinge 2 can go down, up, and then hinge 3 pretty much just goes up. Oh no, it can go down as well. So definitely some nice opportunities there at each of these hinges to do something with the wings. And then we have this little section here that lets the tip of the wing fully extend out or fold in when not in flight. So the wings are definitely very nice, and I can definitely see why you would continue that type of wing mechanic into Pterosaur. And in fact, I quite like how Airazor does look a lot more streamlined when the wings are tucked away in more of a idle type pose. That's very nice. It's a bit of a side on view and a bit of an angled shot. In terms of the feet, so they are the socket, so they can pretty much do anything that a socket does. And as I've mentioned multiple times now, the socket is it's not super tight, but it's definitely not loose. So yes, that will definitely hold poses without a problem, as I've done a few times now. Lastly, in terms of articulation, and also actually quite surprised, her head moves. So that's the head up, and the head can also move down. So if you're doing a bit of a wild bird pose, you can actually do that. And there's more. Her lower part of her beak will also open and close. So that's, I believe, fully opened, fully closed. So there's just a slight small tab underneath there that can help you open that up. So that is a very cool little feature. It's obviously not a make or break type of feature, but it's nice that it's been added in. So it's very cool that you can do that. Oh, and there you go. Airazor's head can also do a full 360. So if you want to, you can totally have her head upside down. And as the video probably suggests right now, it looks very, very creepy. So we'll just put your head back to normal, Airazor. We'll do that. Fold your wings back in. I mentioned in the robot mode, so we've got that interesting little hinge there in the legs, so they will definitely be more useful now in her beast mode, because she can actually use them to actually have a bit more of a upright pose, which works quite well. And bear in mind, because the legs do come out on a slight angle, they are tabbed in, which is good. You will have some interesting looks on the feet. So just do what you can, and I guess just fold the legs in, and there you go. So I guess to make it look a bit better that way, so that's what I'm trying to do. Oddly enough, it looks a bit better. So Airazor could basically perch on a tree branch without any issues. So Airazor, just put you over there. Bring the manual back. Final thoughts. Robot mode, as the original tool and mold of the figure, I think I actually much prefer Airazor over Terrorsaur. Just seems to work a lot better with Airazor. So the wings, unlike Terrorsaur, do try to neatly fold into the back. It's not a perfectly folded wing set, but it's definitely a lot nicer to look at. Although interestingly enough, this picture does suggest that the wings start to come out. I'm wondering, they can definitely come out. Depends how much you wish to fold them in. But I quite like them being pretty much all the way folded up. Articulation is definitely still good in the base of the figure, which is really good. And I think whilst the wings can definitely fold into the back a little bit more, it does mean there's hopefully a bit more shoulder articulation, which is good. Although Airazor being Airazor, her primary weapons are basically on her forearms, so hopefully, as I'll see in the shorts, that won't be too encumbered. I think the biggest point here was the ankle ball sockets actually being generally tight and secure, so definitely relief. It's not the mold, it's probably the figure. And I think someone actually commented on a previous short and said that their Terrorsaur did have the looseness in the ankle. It was okay in the robot mode, I believe, but it was in Terrorsaur's beast mode that the ankle support just wasn't what it needed to be. So overall, I would say robot mode, I quite like it. It's definitely good between Airazor and Terrorsaur. I'm liking how the mold has been utilized for Airazor. So that was my thoughts on the robot mode. In terms of the beast mode, I think the beast mode just works better with Airazor. I like how there's been the articulation put into the head. The nice opening and closing of the beak is a nice touch. The wings just seem to feel more aesthetically, well, aesthetically they work better for Airazor than they did for Pterosaur. Once again, the ankle ball sockets being secure has been a really good thing as well. Colors are great. One of the few times that you don't mind stowing the weapons in her beast mode, because they definitely don't look too out of place. I mean, they're not fantastic, but we've definitely seen worse. So that is definitely very, very cool. Now, what have I done here? Gee whiz, Airazor, why do you suddenly feel like you're somewhat not balanced? So yes, beast mode, I definitely like it more for Airazor than I did Pterosaur. So I guess between the two modes, try and get that right. Airazor has been a very, very solid figure. I would definitely recommend Airazor as a figure to pick him up. Definitely a huge improvement over her original 90s toy, which I do have, but I remember the only way to get Airazor, I think it was a weird limited version where you had to get Airazor with a copy of a VHS. I think it's a while ago. VHS was still the rage in the 90s. So that was an interesting one, but that's besides the point. Definitely very cool. I think a welcome addition to the new modern take of the Maximal lineup. And as I've mentioned a few times, the mold just seems to work much better with Airazor than it did Pterosaur. They did still do a really good job at retooling it. I mean, it's still a significant difference between a falcon and a pterodactyl. And at some point in time, I'll probably do some little mini shorts once the Maximal team is done. But yeah, I think definitely overall Airazor has been really good. So as a deluxe figure, works quite well. The looks and aesthetics really good. Colors are good. Articulation is good. So yes, definitely a overall very solid representation of Airazor. I mean, if I had to try and have some criticisms, kibble is kibble, but it isn't too bad. Could they have hidden a few more things nicely within the alt mode, maybe? But yeah, I'd say it's hard to find a solid, significant criticism of the figure. Everything's just generally minor, like some of the shoulder articulation and things like that. So yeah, overall, I'm quite happy with Airazor. So that brings us to an end of the unboxing and review of Deluxe Class Airazor. So 3 Maximals now done: Airazor, Cheetor and Rat Trap. Next week we'll be moving into the Voyager size. Haven't decided who will kick that one off. Definitely won't be Tigertron, because I had to actually grab the Takara Tommy version as opposed to the Hasbro version. Didn't get to see Tigertron on the actual shelf here in Australia, unfortunate, but I still managed to get one, so that's still okay. So Tigertron will definitely not be the next one. Yes, it'll either be Rhinox, Primal, or Dinobot. We'll see. I'll try to do the preview image in the community tab at least 2 days in advance, just so people have a bit of advanced warning. Thank you very much for watching this video. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account, link below, and I'll also have some parallel shorts both on Instagram and YouTube. Well, reels on Instagram, shorts on YouTube of Airazor, and a collaboration of the current 3 Maximals I have open. With that being said, stay safe and take care, and I will see you in a future video, whether it be back for another Transformer one or something else on my channel. See ya.